Hi, can I get a Simon and a strawberry Nesquik, please? Josh just committed a felony, and after going to trial, he has received a prison sentence for 1 year, and today marks his 6-month anniversary. Oh, hey, Josh.
Hey Kris, why are you here?
I heard that you got paroled just like the other day, so I was wondering if I could follow you and do anyone who's paroled.
It's fine, I guess.
Okay.
Suspended sentence, where your sentencing is given later. Home confinement, where time is served at home and you have to have an anklet that monitors your whereabouts. Probation is an option that allows the convicted to avoid prison by doing community service and requires them to meet up with their probation officer to check in with how are they doing.
Hey, Josh, are you being drug-free?
A fine is where you just have to pay the government or an amount set by the court. Restitution is similar and is to make up for loss or injury. Work release is where someone can work during the weekdays, but after work, returns to prison and is held there on the weekends. The death penalty is given when a serious crime is committed and the perpetrator is given a lethal injection.
Hey, Josh, how did you get paroled?
Well, at court I was given a minimum sentence of 6 months, and after that, with good behavior, I could apply for parole.
Does everyone get paroled?
No, actually. I got a buddy that's been put away 3 times, and because of the 3 strikes law, when you commit 2 major crimes, the second sentence is doubled, but you still have the option of parole. However, after your 3rd strike, you have a minimum of 25 years with no chance of getting out.
So why do people get put in prison?
Well, you put me in prison, and I guess you wanted retribution, in the sense that you wanted me to pay for robbing you. And for me, I feel like I have been rehabilitated.
Wait, what?
For me, I feel like I have been rehabilitated, because after being in there, I don't want to steal again. And if I wasn't incapacitated, I don't know. And for me, I feel like I have been rehabilitated, because after being in there, I don't want to steal again. And if I was out, the people would feel unsafe with a criminal on the streets.
Thanks, Josh. I also set up a meeting with a lawyer to find out more information, and did you want to come?
Sure.
So how the Hawaii paroling system works is basically a judge will impose a sentence on an individual and will give that sentence, that individual a sentence that has like an open term. So for example, you often hear like, oh, he sentenced him to an open 5 or an open 10 or an open 20. So when a judge does that, then the paroling authority will come in and they will set the minimum sentence that the person will serve. And they will assess it based upon the nature and circumstances of the offense, then the history and characteristics of the defendant, the need to deter other individuals from doing the crime, the need to rehabilitate, those are the considerations that the parole board will look at to kind of set the minimum standard. Throughout the individual's time in incarceration, they will have meetings with the parole board, and the parole board will assess their progress. So usually at a minimum parole board hearing, they will say, we want you to do certain things while you're serving your time, and if you hit these targets, then we would reassess what your release date or your potential release date. And so they meet with the parole board at various times in order for them to make that assessment. Then the parole board, if they feel that they have satisfied certain criteria that was laid out for each individual defendant, they will then begin the process of setting their term, and then the individual could then be released once that term date comes to, and even if it's before the 5-year period. So like somebody may be sentenced to an open 5-year term, but if the parole board says, you know, they've been good and they've served 2.5 years, then they spend the rest of their time on parole rather than in custody. When they're on parole, they are still monitored by a probation officer, which will then monitor their progress in the community. And again, they have to comply with certain conditions that the court had set at sentencing. Actually, in the federal system, even though Hawaii doesn't have the death penalty as a state judiciary, the federal system does have the death penalty. And there has been cases in which the jury had to decide whether an individual would be eligible for the death. And in one case, they recently did not. The jury did not vote for death. So there is a possibility, even though Hawaii does not have it as a state, that if a defendant is tried in federal court in the District of Hawaii, that they could be subjected to the death penalty.
Wow, we sure learned a lot about our legal system.
Yeah,